Hey folks and folkettes, welcome to the Barbarian's Horde. I'm the Nerdy Barbarian. I think I got a pretty fun one for you today. This was requested by a viewer, but I've been kind of putting it off because I wanted to get through some of these knives individually before I brought the whole damn thing out, but we're going to go through the collection today. We're going to do kind of a collection update. A baseline, I guess. It's not really an update because I've never done this before, but this will be the baseline. The collection as it stands as of June 2025. What year is it? What year is it?
What year is it?
I've got this big Pelican case, and it's pretty full. The first two layers are full. There's a couple things on the lower level, but it's not totally packed yet. This is a Nowpak V200 foam set inside of a Pelican case, but you can get it all from Nowpak as a package deal for like 200 bucks, 150. It's between 1 and 2. I don't remember exactly. I'll link it down below if I think about it. So we got that one to go through. I got this little one over here. This is the V100 from the same place, the Pelican Vault case with a Nowpak foam set inside of it, the V100. It's a lot smaller. This is like the top row of this is full, and then the bottom half, it's like half full on the bottom. And then I've got a few honorable mentions for things that I've either got on order but aren't here yet, or that just left the collection that I want to mention, but I'll put those in too. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on every knife because otherwise this video will be an hour long, and I want to do videos on all these individually anyway, eventually, so we're going to kind of blow through these, give you an overview of them, some quick thoughts, but it's going to be short and sweet. Let's get into this. Okay, we might as well start off with the honorable mentions. We have the recently sold Chris Reeve large Sebenza 31 bog oak inlays. This was a really, really beautiful knife. I thought I was going to keep this. I got it from a buddy for a pretty good price, but I started looking at like that and the Inkosi and the Omnumzon. I was like, man, I think I got too much tied up in these. They're not different enough, and I really clearly like one of these more than the others, and I've talked about that in a video before. I won't get into it here, but I decided to move it, and so I actually had trouble selling it. A lot of people don't seem to want the dressy ones as much as they want the users, the blasted ones, the ones that you can tear up and not feel too bad about. And I feel the same way, honestly, so not really a pretty CRK knife guy. I like the raw ones, so that one moved on down the line. And I just mentioned the Omnumzon. That one actually also moved down the line. Check out my video up here where I compare it and the Inkosi. It just wasn't the one for me. I understand why people like them. They look cool. I mean, that's really all you need to be really into a knife, is for it to look badass, and that one does. But when I compared it to the Inkosi, I just kind of preferred the Inkosi, so that one moved on down the line. Next, the Microtech Ultratech Zero Blade Plate model. I just had another out the front, and I'm not a huge out the front, aficionado or enthusiast, so I only really wanted to keep one. I decided I cared for my Heretic a little more than the Microtech, so I sold it to a friend who was really interested in it. He got a good deal on it. I bought it for a good deal, so, win-win there. I got my money mostly back out of it, and he got a really good deal on that, and is enjoying it thoroughly from what I understand, so no regrets there. Next, the Herman B. I just did a video on it too, comparing it to the Vespertilio up here in the corner. And much like the Sebenza versus the Omnumzon, I just decided one was better for me than the other, and I sold one to free up some money and try out some other things for the channel. The B left, the Vespertilio stayed. I got a video about that up there. Next, the PMP Alpha Beast Gen 2. This thing I bought just to get a look at, honestly. I really didn't think I was going to keep this thing. I got it for a fair price before they spiked, and then I sold it and got my money all the way back out of it. Didn't lose anything. I just really, really wanted to get my hands on it just to experience that and to share it with the channel, and I got kind of a kick out of that. That was insane, but I mean, it's absolutely useless, and that's a ton of money to have tied up in a desk ornament. I like to use my knives. If it's a knife I've decided that I'm keeping in the collection, I will use it, and I'm not afraid to. But that knife is unusable. It was just, it was a toy. And it was cool to look at, but I don't really need to keep that much of my money parked in one thing like that. I'm not rich, regardless of what you might think. This is just misplaced money, not in excess of money. Next, the Koenig Arius Gen 4. This will probably surprise some people, but that one moved on down the line. I also have a video about it. I've got videos about most of these so far that I've sold. I don't tend to sell them until I do a video about them. Some of these may still be in the pipeline. As I mentioned them, I'm not sure. Some of them are scheduled. I do film ahead of time a little bit. But the Koenig Arius Gen 4 was a really nice knife. The design didn't scream at me, is basically what it boils down to. It was functionally a fantastic knife and is at a pretty fair price. As long as you can get it, for sticker or a little less would be ideal, honestly. It's kind of in a niche in the middle of that $500, $600 range and that $800 to $1,000 range. It kind of parks itself in the middle, so really there's a gap in the market there. I think it nestles nicely there. I just tend to aim a little higher or lower than that a lot of the time, it seems like. I'm not even sure that's true. The Hermans I bought were $800, so they're right in there too. I don't know, it just didn't scream at me, and I moved it down the line to someone else who would appreciate it more. Glad I got to see it, glad I got to get my hands on it, but yeah, it just wasn't one I felt that would break my heart to get rid of, and that's kind of my metric for whether I keep it or not. Am I really going to regret selling this? No, not in this case, so on it went. The Chavez 229 Redemption Kickstop. I bought this one for a pretty good price used. I wanted to try that Kickstop flipper out. It was pretty cool. I got a video about this one up here. It is released for sure. That was one of my earlier videos. I wanted to play with that Kickstop, but then when I got it, it ended up bothering me way more than I realized it would to not have a thumb stud also. I really like having multiple deployment options. And the first time I had a 229, it was just the thumb stud model. The Kickstop didn't exist yet, and it was a lot of fun. And I really missed that with the Kickstop model. So I thought, tossed it back and forth for a while. Am I gonna mod this, add thumb stubs myself or not? And I just decided, wasn't worth the trouble. I wasn't that in love with it, so I just decided to sell it. So it went away. Okay, those are all the ones I think I've sold recently, or all the ones worth talking about anyway. Now we're gonna move on to some other honorable mentions. These are some knives that either I don't personally own, but are in my collection temporarily, or that I have on order but have not received yet for one reason or another. Just happen to be in transit at the time, or they're, custom knives that are not delivered yet, yada yada. Let me get started with these. These are in-house temporarily from a friend. A buddy loaned me these. These are Monterey Bay knives, both of them. We have I'm not super familiar with Monterey Bay, but I think this is the Easy Carry, the Easy C. Little flipper. Nothing fancy, nothing special really, just a little titanium flipper. I haven't played with this much. I haven't done a video on this yet. I may do that though. I'll probably just throw it in the video with the other knife because the other one's more interesting to me. But yeah, this is a nice little Ray Laconico designed flipper. Nothing wrong with it. It's kind of got a weak detent, but we could probably adjust that if we wanted to. And here's its relative. This is a little more interesting. This is also a Ray Laconico designed Monterey Bay. This is the XLC. This one is an integral. I've got some thoughts about that. I'll talk about that in the video review, but briefly, I really wish they hadn't done this. This kind of ruins the integral look, doesn't it, when you eat away half the back? I don't know why they did that. It's got a lot of sharp edges and unfinished surfaces, unpolished parts. It just kind of seems unfinished. The whole thing seems unfinished to me, and I'll dig into that more when I get a full review film. But it is a really cool knife with a really nice snappy action. A little slow on the drop, but really good and snappy. Fun to flip. Really cool looking knife, and it was at a pretty good price. And if you can find them used, they're still a pretty good price. They're not too bad. And, it may have some unfinished feel to it, but for what they cost, I think it's fine. And this is a good knife. Next honorable mentions. These are some that are on the injured list currently. F's in the chat, boys. This is my Machine Wise Opus V2 Balisong that I flipped to death. It actually got a little loose, and I kind of went a little crazy there tightening that pivot to get a little bit of the slop out. Unlike a lot of other high-end Balisongs, these run on steel washers because Machine Wise just feels it's worth the trade-off. You get a tiny bit more play, but they live basically forever. No changing them out like the phosphor bronze ones. I was seeing if I could take a little bit of that out, and I don't know if I was too strong on it or if it was just kind of a defective pivot. I don't know. I don't want to blame them. It's probably just my fault, but I ended up stripping that out, so this one's on the sideline for now until new parts arrive. And then this I have done a video about. I'll put that up here. This is the EMP EDC Relative frame lock, well, not a flipper, frame lock front flipper, I guess. I'm just waiting on some skiff bearings for this. I did a video about this where I put some skiffs in. I tried to put them in this, and I put them in a Spyderco Smock. That's in this pipeline. I'm not sure if it's out or not. If it is out, I'll put it up here. Man, I'm going to have a lot of videos to link in this one. I'm just waiting on skiffs, because I ordered the wrong parts the first time around. So as soon as those get in, I'll throw those back in there. I'll probably do a follow-up video on this for the skiff install. Alright, next on the list, again, kind of still in the honorable mentions category. These are knives I have on order or in the mail, but I don't have here to show you today. I'll put pictures of them here as we go, but I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them yet, because I probably haven't had my hands on them much yet. Okay, here we go. The Simeon Custom Knives RT, or Reverse Tanto. I'm very excited about this one. I talked to him earlier this week. I think it was, I don't know, within a week or so. He said he'd hope to have it done this week, but I haven't heard from him, so maybe next week that'll be done. I'm very excited to have that one shipped. I've had that one on order for a little while now, a couple of months or so, before Blade Show. It looks just right up my alley. As soon as I saw this thing on Instagram, I was like, oh my god, that's like someone designed that just for me. Fantastic looking knife. Hope it holds up when I get my hands on it. Alright, next one I've got on order is the Hawk Talon. This thing is insane looking. The action is what has me interested. That special lock it's got. I'm really excited to get my hands on that Hawk locking system. I also think the pocket clip's kind of cool. A lot of little weird over-engineered things going on with this knife. It's very interesting and quirky looking also. Just caught my eye. They're really expensive, but they are really high quality, very inventive and American made. So, you know, you kind of get what you pay for a little bit there. It's going to be expensive, especially on the secondary market. I would honestly advise you to just get on his email list if you want a Deadlock or you want a Hawk Talon. Don't pay those secondary prices. They get insane. So just wait your turn. Next on the list, I've kind of fallen down a Balisong hole lately. I'll try not to ruin my channel with that, because I know a lot of EDC guys are not interested in Balisongs. But I do like them. I may talk about them as knives, but I'm not going to be a flipping channel or anything like that. But I've got this one coming. This is from onebalisong.com, I think. It's just a Benchmade Necron knockoff, the Benchmade 99. Because I really, really like the way the Benchmade Necron looks, but it's a piece of shit. On washers only, no bushings, steel liners with G10 scales, and it's the real problem is it's $500. That's just absolutely insane. The thing is spec'd out like a sub $100 knife, and even worse than most sub $100 knives. Even most sub $100 knives these days are going to come on bushings or bearings. A washer only is pretty much unheard of anymore for anything like short of like a pawn shop near a gas station Balisong. They should have bushings in them, and the knockoff has bushings in it. The knockoff in this case is a better knife in pretty much every way, spec sheet wise, than the actual real Necron. And I don't feel bad about buying it because I wasn't going to buy a real one anyway because they're just absolutely not worth $500. And the special edition ones are like $1,300. It's absolutely insane. Benchmade is smoking crack. The last two Balisongs I've got on order, these are maybe not the exact representations of the knives that I'm getting because they're kind of custom knives, and I've kind of left a little bit of this to his discretion. These are from Black Balisong. This is the Zolo and the Mist. And they're absolutely beautiful. Check out Black Balisong on Instagram if you're interested in Balisongs at all. He's a guy in Mexico making some really insane looking Balisongs. Really, really cool looking stuff for really pretty fair prices as far as custom knives go. The Zolo in particular has a super cool blade shape that's, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but it's based on that old Mesoamerican weapon, the Macuatl, I think it's called. It's like that wooden sword with the sharpened obsidian blades sticking out the sides of it. Pretty cool. The blade really took me on this, that's why I wanted this. I also like the really cool intricate handle pattern on that, and the Mist just looks like a badass Balisong. And I got a really good deal, like a twofer. Gave me like half off one of them when I bought both of them together. Very excited to get those in. Next on the list, this is a brand new release, but I'm not anybody on YouTube yet, so I don't get them until after they come out. This is the Shirogorov Q95. As soon as they announced this around Blade Show, I was very, very excited about it, and I wanted one immediately. So I've been kind of waiting for these to come out, and I jumped on it as soon as they released at noon the other day. And it's a good thing I did because I wanted the maroon one, and they sold out pretty much immediately. I'm not sure at time of recording if any of the other ones are available, but as far as, you know, the evening of, they were still around, except the maroon ones. Those sold out immediately. These look like a really cool little quantum type knife, but they have special hardware on them, but they include a special tool to use on that hardware, so not a big deal. And in the Facebook group, they told us that you can use just a regular hex bit, like an Allen key. They'll fit right in there too, and you can use those to take them apart. So it looks like custom hardware, but it uses regular tools, and that's like the best of both worlds. You get that really cool custom hardware look, but without the headache. Really, really happy to see that, because Shirogorov is not great about the accessible hardware and right to repair shit, really. So happy to see that. Hope that continues. Very excited to get my hands on the Q95. Okay, right before I start tearing into the cases, let's talk about three that were not in the cases for one reason or another. This didn't really seem like a knife to be in a case. I use it a lot though. A Leatherman Free P2. Highly recommend anyone carry one of these around or have one in the car. The thing that separates us from the animals, pliers. Pliers are the shit. You should really have a pair of these. If you don't have a Leatherman, go ahead and grab a Leatherman. Next, shitty flea market stiletto that's fun to play with. I've had for a few years, just kicking around in the kitchen drawer. I don't know. I don't use it. I forgot I even had it until I saw it in the drawer. Piece of crap. Fun though. And I've done a video on this one. I'll link that up here. This is the Exceed Designs Tyrant Ultra. It's a titanium flipper frame lock box cutter knife, but the box cutter comes out and you can change in these blades, these removable blades made of D2 steel. These are like $8 a piece, so you can tear the crap out of these and just swap a new one in, not worry about it. That's a really cool thing. I thought that was pretty sick. So that's a cool one. This wasn't in the box because it's in my bag. I carry this every single day, just in case I run into any nasty jobs that need done. Highly recommend that one. Watch the video if you're interested. Okay, on with the case. We're going to start with the little case first. Again, I said this in the intro, but this is a Vault by Pelican. I'll put a link to Nowpack down there. This is the V100. My bigger case is the V200. Very, very highly recommended. I've had this one for years. The V200 is new. I got it around the time I started the channel, a little earlier. I've had this one for years though, and I love it. I'm going to put it off screen though because it takes up the whole damn desk. First up, out of the first case is the Concept Knives Goblin XL. This is the second one of these I've owned. They're very neat looking knives, pretty big. Frame lock titanium, front flipper. My microphone's kind of in my way, sorry. And most of the time I just reverse flick this knife though. It's really fun, satisfying to reverse flick because it's got this huge leaf blade. The only thing bad about this really is it's because it's a good price knife. You get a lot for your money here, but the lock bar on this particular model was super sharp. I had to take it down with a Dremel, and the lock bar is pretty sharp on this. I took it down with the Dremel to make it better and tweaked some of the pressure out so it wasn't so harsh. I don't remember my first one being this bad, but this one had a really sharp, strong lock bar, so I took some tension out of it and took the sharp edges off. Made that better. This might have been a defect, I don't know. I didn't ask. I modified it before I even asked Concept about it. They probably would have just replaced it for me, but no big deal. The other thing is this blade, this front flipper, is really long and ends up right above like the middle of this release, so when you are holding this knife to release it, you're going to want to be here, press the lock bar, and then it's going to hit your finger and not want to close because that front flipper is so long, the tang of the blade. So that takes some getting used to, but it's not insurmountable. It's still a pretty recommendable knife, as long as it's not super sharp on that lock bar. But again, my first one wasn't like that. I think this one might have been defective. Unsure. First time I've had a Concept though. It had a problem out of the box though, I'll say that. Been pretty impressed with Concept overall so far. Next on the list is one that's probably going to get a video. This is a Civivi. I like Civivi. I like WE knives a lot, and Civivi is just their budget line. So this is a Ware Knives design. I really like the look of it. I don't remember what it's called. I'll put it on the screen. Civivi Ware Knives design. Really cool looking sheep's foot reverse Tanto-Eek blade with an opening hole that I love. A slight belly, a good sharpening choil. Liner lock, which is nice. You're not going to press on the frame lock on accident. Comes with a titanium clip, micarta scales, and a flipper tab. Really, really, really awesome setup here. Love everything about it, except the way Civivi does their liner locks. I hate these serrated teeth. I hate that there's no cutaway here. That's annoying. I don't like mushing my finger in and moving lock bars over. Also, this thing came with some lock stick, and the first one I got had some really bad detent lash. This one's solid. The first one was audibly rattling, which is a pet peeve of mine. Really cool looking knife though, fun to play with other than the lock bar feeling gross to use, but I'll probably do a video on that at some point. And for what they cost, you know, still a pretty recommendable knife. Next, the Concept. I think this is the Model 6? Yeah, the Swan designed, I believe. Concept Model 6. I have an unboxing video of this, I think, and I tweaked it a little bit in the video, but I haven't done a full review on it. It's a pretty cheap knife also, like around a $50 knife. Same with that Civivi. Sheep's foot blade, mid belly. I like having a little bit of a belly on the knife. I like having a sharpening choil. I like having an opening hole, and I like having a flipper tab. This is like my ideal setup. So I decided to check it out. I also really like micarta. Really shares a lot in common with this Civivi, and both of them are really right up my alley. This is a little nicer feeling knife, and it's got this titanium clip. That's pretty nice too, but still pretty cool for like a $50 knife or whatever they are, maybe less. G10 backspace here with a big lanyard hole. I don't really love that, but whatever. Blade's a little goofy looking, but it's still kind of cool. It is cutaway and has a beveled liner. I really, really like that. That is much better, in my opinion, than the way Civivi does it. I wish Civivi would start doing that. Detent's a little stiff, but it's got pretty good action. I took it apart and I oiled it up. And oiled up the micarta. Runs a lot better. They come pretty dry, but once you oil them up, they're pretty slick. Pretty recommendable knife there. Also, the Concept Model 6. Alright, we're going to get into the few Spydercos I've got now. This is the Spyderco PM2 Crewwear. I got a little button glued on there that I got off Etsy, make it a little more fidget friendly. Not a huge fan of the PM2, to be honest. Especially in crewwear, I really don't like non-stainless pocket knives in general, so I tend to avoid crewwear, D2, and any of that kind of stuff. I really want my knife to be stainless. I don't want to worry about it. I've been keeping a little bit of a Superlube H3, I think it's called. It's like a food-safe synthetic oil that doesn't rot. Keep that on there. It's the same stuff I used to darken up my micarta. This thing came uncentered. I managed to pretty much center it. Came with terrible action. I think I've about got that acceptable now. If you really wrench on it, it's got a tiny bit of blade play. I mean, it's just a shitty design. I mean, this is a good solid knife for what it used to be anyway, for not a lot of money, but now the price is so high that I haven't done a video on this again, but I honestly don't recommend a PM2. There are a lot better knives out there for your money these days. It's really not a terrible knife. It's just, I think it's old. It's just an old design and there are better knives for your money these days. But there you go, the Crewwear PM2. Next, we have my radically modified Spyderco Smock. Well, it's not reground or anything, but it's pretty heavily modified. But I've got the micarta scales. I've got this really cool brass backspacer on there. I've got this titanium clip, and then I took the blade out and I acid etched it and stonewashed it. I think it came out pretty cool. It's pretty fun to fidget with. I had the damnedest time getting this knife centered though, and that's been the case for the last two Smocks I've owned also. You have to fight these, or at least I do, to get them to center. This one was the worst one I've ever had. It would not center. Yeah, I got it centered. I ended up having to tweak a liner, like actually put a tiny, almost imperceptible bend in it to get the thing to go straight again. But that worked out, so maybe it was a little warped from the factory. I don't know. I might have got a dud knife. Maybe my knife's just a piece of shit, but looks pretty cool now, and after all the hassle, I guess it was worth it. It's pretty cool now. You noticing a theme here with my brown micartas? This is the Kapara Knife Center exclusive, with an S90V blade and brown burlap micarta. Absolutely beautiful knife. It may be clear at this point that I'm not a giant Spyderco fan, but there are a few that really speak to me, and this is one of them. But I mean, again, you know, it's just not quite centered. The action isn't great because it's on washers instead of bearings. I've never taken this one apart. Is this on bearings? If it is, it's not good. It's not good bearings. Not a good action. But the compression lock's kind of fun and fidgety, and really I bought it because it's beautiful. This thing's stunning. One of the most beautiful Spydercos I've ever seen. Also really dig this red backspacer. I think this is based on a custom model from this designer called the Redback, and I think that's a callback to the Redback name. Some people don't like wire pocket clips. I do. I think it's fine. Looks better than that shiny chrome steel one they use. Really cool looking, I'm guessing titanium pivots. They match on both sides. Guarantee you they're not captive, but I'm not an expert on the Kapara and haven't taken this one apart yet. I haven't dove into this one much yet, so I could be wrong on there, but I bet they free spin just like a Smocks and the PM2s, every other one. Very cool. Beautiful knife. Don't regret buying that one. I'm not sure if they're still available. They were a limited special release from Knife Center. Next up is the Demko Knives AD 20.5, which is the budget Taiwanese made version of their AD 20. Another one that I wasn't super impressed with that everyone else loves. The action kind of sucks because there's not a real detent, kind of like a crossbar lock knife. It uses this shark lock, which just gives you a little spring tension to build up against. So it's pretty easy to fail because it doesn't actually get a wall. It's just mushy. Reverse flicking doesn't feel good, thumb flicking doesn't feel good. And the build quality's not that great. It didn't come centered, and I can't get it centered no matter what I do. It's a little off to the clip side. Good specs, overpriced, fun lock. It's kind of fidgety, so. But it's thinner than the real AD20, and that makes this a little uncomfortable. I actually filed this down and stonewashed it to make it smoother because that top jimp was really sharp, and that helped a little bit, but it's just too thin. The AD20 is thicker, and that makes the switch thicker, and that makes it more comfortable. I'm not really a huge fan of the AD 20.5. This one is a 20 CV, so not cheap. This was like a $250 to $300 knife, and I really just don't feel like I got my money's worth out of that one. Be a good EDC knife. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing terrible about it. The detent's not satisfying to me. All right, we're entering the second level of this case now. Why don't I do that? Why don't I bring the foam on screen? This is a Yojimbo 2 that my buddy gave me, or traded me. It used to be DLC, and I just wanted to see if I could get it off of there. I bead blasted it off and then stonewashed it. This is pretty centered. Has a decent, it's a little off, but that's a Spyderco. Good action, tiny bit of blade play. If I get the action on a Spyderco good, it just feels like, I mean, if you wrench on it a little, you're gonna get blade play. They're just not good knives, man. Not for what they cost. I mean, if you cut all Spyderco's prices in half, they'd be very recommendable, but they're just too expensive for what you get. They're coasting on their name, just like Benchmade. Next up, this is a newer one. I hadn't heard of this. I follow a guy on YouTube called EDC Steels, and he posted about this, and I got this thing for super cheap, like $100 or something, after a coupon code from a link he shared. This is an Asher Knives Spyro tie. Just a cool little, I don't know, 3.25 inch Wharncliffe blade, about 3 1/8, 3 1/4, with a big opening hole, no flipper or anything. Titanium handle scales, milled for weight relief. Little nested liner lock there, wire clip, backspacer. Comes with a backspacer or standoff, your choice. So it seems like a lot of knife for like 125 bucks. I'm pretty impressed with this. I haven't done a video on it yet, but I will. Very impressed with that. Asher Knives Spyro tie. Next up, I will do a video about this one too. I'm impressed with this. This is a Civivi something. Future me, put the name of the knife here. Civivi and we release so many knives, it's hard for me to keep track of them. But it's a really cool button lock, just a plunge button lock flipper with really good action once you put some oil in it. And a nice fuller there that you can reverse flick. I don't know if you can thumb flick it. Yeah, you can. Okay. Reverse flicky, just a nice fidgety knife with Ultem scales. Kind of cool. Again, like a $60 knife. So Nitro V steel, Ultem scales, fun fidgety. Again, no blade play, no lock rock. A little bit of button stick, but you get that on most button locks, it seems. Almost imperceptible. There's not much of it there. Just a little bit. Probably go away as I break it in, but pretty cool knife. Recommendable. I'll do a video on that one. The Civivi, whatever it's called. I've got a video about this one. I'll link it up here. This is the Vosteed Porcupine. I remember when I was using this for testing, I had problems doing this a lot. But it's thumb flickable. It's got this nice oblong hole. It's not round like a Spyderco because they trademarked it, but it's got enough of a round top half that it doesn't matter, which means it's flickable. And good hole for reverse flicking, or you can button flick it if you're into that, if you swing that way. Short little leaf-shaped blade, big tall belly. Not a huge fan of that, but this is a rock solid knife. I say that. This thing has lock rock. I did not notice that until just now. Listen. You can hear it. 14C28N, a button actuated compression lock or top liner lock. So it's supposed to be pretty strong, but I've got lock rock. I bet I can fix that. I bet I put a little more tension on this liner, that'll go away. But not great. I have used this fairly heavily though, so I'll give it a break, I guess. But that's concerning. That's a letdown. But whatever. I've got a video about it up there if you want some details. Haven't done a video about this. This is a QSP Pelican. Really high spec knife for the money, but as soon as I got it in hand, I didn't like it. I liked it on paper. As soon as I got it, I didn't. Does that ever happen to you? Contoured micarta scales, but they're not done in a super. It's got kind of a step bevel around the edge, and then it swoops up in the middle. So not like a smooth contour. It's got some texture there. Titanium clip, flip only knife, pretty heavy steel liners. The flipper tab's not super comfortable, but not terrible either. It's got a little bit of a hook, but the jimping's not very strong, so it's not gonna murder you or anything. The detent feels a little, I don't know, it's weirdly clicky, but not that satisfying. It doesn't feel like it flips very well for how big and heavy the blade is. Yeah, and I just slipped off of it. No play or lock rock. Big old sheep's foot blade, or sheepcliff blade. The thing that really killed this knife for me was it's so heavy that it feels cheap, which can go either way. Sometimes you get a knife that's so light that it feels cheap. This is so heavy it feels cheap, and the liner is horrible to get to. Kind of like that Civivi I was talking about. It's not cut away really, just barely. And then they did this weird serration thing that doesn't help at all, and you can't really get at it at an angle very comfortably. You can just barely catch a little bit of the side of your thumb trying to open this thing, and I really hate it. I really hoped I'd like this because these were really. I think I paid under $100 for this S35VN knife with like a titanium clip and these little pretty neat little attention to detail. It's a solid knife. Don't get me wrong. QSP built a good knife. It's just it didn't feel as good in the hand as I was hoping it would. Next, we got another concept. This is a little frag patterned concept Saiben, number 78 of 300. They are serialized. This is a reverse flick only knife, which is a big weakness. I bought this from Blade HQ a while back because I thought it looked cool. This blade shape is neat. Frag pattern is always cool. Nice big titanium backspacer, titanium clip, this interesting shape going on here. But the only real problems with this knife are, I haven't done a video about this either, but I will. You can only reverse flick it. You're not going to be thumb flicking this very comfortably. Unless you like dig your thumbnail into the hole. And even then, yeah, it's going to be a reverse flick only. And there's not a lot of room even for that if you use a middle finger like I do. Kind of mush it in there. And then the other problem with this knife is there's like no ramp or shoulder brake whatsoever for the detent ball, and the detent ball sticks out of the lock bar a fair bit, so it's pretty stiff going over the tang onto the blade, side of the blade. So the detent doesn't feel great. It's pretty stiff there. Still not bad for the price though. You got some decent materials here. I didn't even tell you that, but this is an S35 VN blade, and again a titanium frame lock S35 knife for well under 200 bucks. So pretty cool deal. All right, that does it for the small case. Now we're gonna get into the good stuff. Alright, I'm going to put the tray up here. Not much on the bottom shelf on this boy. I got room to grow. My wife will love it. Just a couple of Balisongs. This is a Squid Industries Crackerakin V3 live blade with the Tanto. It's a pretty fun knife. I've been having a lot of fun messing with this. I'm not gonna flip anything here because I'm gonna hit shit. Just a fun, simple, nice little American-made aluminum handled Balisong on bushings and phosphor bronze washers. Haven't had any problems. Flips pretty good. Don't really like it compared to a higher end titanium Balisong. Feels a little sluggish compared to some of those like my Machine Wise, but solid knife, recommendable. The only Benchmade I own. I got this on clearance from Knife Center for 200 bucks recently when they were clearancing these out. This is the Benchmade Model 62. I got it because it's pretty old school and neat. It reminds me of, it makes me feel like an 80s kid in a movie riding a dirt bike around town, acting like a punk. Came very sharp. The Weehawk blade shape's pretty short. The handles are a little shorter than I like for actually flipping, but the main problem is this thing weighs a ton. This is the heaviest Balisong I've ever handled in my life. It is very unpleasant to flip. Yeah, see, I just hit my knife. Very unpleasant to flip. You got your T-handle latch there. I don't know, if you want to feel like a cool 80s kid on a dirt bike in a movie, you know, grab you one of those, I guess, but they discontinued them, so good luck. Yeah, not a huge fan of that, but, you know, it's Benchmade. Shocker. Got this huge PMP Kodiak Beast. This is the biggest knife I've handled that's actually usable as a knife if you wanted to. This will cut stuff. Oh yeah, like a razor. Yeah, there was no room for doubt there. You knew that was gonna cut. Yeah, pretend that cut also. Yeah, like I said, sharp as a razor. Absolutely the only knife you need there. Kodiak Beast. It is fun to flick out. Fun to reverse flick. Drops like a fucking guillotine. I was thinking about like putting a hot dog in here and dropping this blade and seeing if it would cut it in half. This thing is insanely heavy, and that blade is pretty sharp. I know it didn't slice very well just now, but it's because it's so thick. Came very sharp. That sharp-ass M390 blade that weighs a ton, so I mean, sharp blade plus heavy equals French Revolution. Gotta be careful with this one. This came this ugly baby poop greenish yellow that I hated, this gold color, so I stripped it with Wink Rust Remover. Looks a lot better, just in a plain raw titanium finish, in my opinion. TM. Little bead on there that my buddy made me in his machine class at Votech. Turned that out of brass. Cool knife. Don't really carry it, but it's neat. On to shelf 2. In the middle. It's a pretty good one here. Got some knives I really like a lot on this one. I saved the best for last here. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't lose like half of the viewers or more. I'm sure I did. The analytics always say I do. Probably lost a lot of people before they got to the good shit, but this is where the good shit starts in my opinion. Some good stuff here. Or just stuff I really like is what I mean. I'm not saying these are objectively better. I just really like these. This is a Concept Shikari, I think it's called. Yeah, Shikari. Huge fucking pocket sword with a belt satin finish, hollow grind, nice looking swedge here, and a nice thumb rim, kind of a harpoony drop point style blade. This is very big. I'm not sure if that's coming through on camera, but this thing's huge. This is a huge knife. This is my Hinderer XM18 for comparison. I mean, look at that enormous knife. I plan to do a video on this one too. This thing has really good action. This is a guillotine, finger guillotine for sure. Cool knife, big old pocket sword. Titanium bolsters, really cool burlap micarta scales. Titanium clip, it's a sub frame lock is what I'd call this. So you got the strength of your frame lock there, but you're not going to be accidentally pinching it when you're trying to open it, and I like that. Don't love the blade finish, it's very fingerprinty, but it's not the end of the world. Thumb studs are also a little pokey, but they work. Pretty thin behind the edge though for such a big knife, it's pretty slicey. Very cool knife. Next, I filmed a video review of this recently. It'll probably come out before this video, I will link it up here. This is a Curtis Custom Knives large F3 flipper. This is the model he's known for, the F3 in the small, medium, and large size. I like the large one. This is like the size of a Hinderer XM24. So here, I'll just use the XM18 again, show you. It's a fairly big knife. A little bit longer, not dramatically bigger, but it is a little bigger. XM24 size, probably. Good action. Drifts home nicely, reverse flicks. Really fun to play with. Really cool looking knife. I mean, I wanted one of these for a long time. This was one of my OG Grail knives that I wanted really bad, 10, 12 years ago. Just really like the way they look. They're not really up to par with modern knives. They're really old school in a lot of ways, but they're still good knives. And Curtis is a really cool guy he really stands behind his products, and he'll help you with anything that goes wrong. So still a recommendable knife. I just think the price is a little high for the fit and finish and fine detail finishing work that these lack compared to a lot of options today. But it is a good American company. I think one guy in his shop, David Curtis, making these, so that costs money. I'm not going to sell this probably ever because it reminds me of when I got started in this obsession. One of my OG Grails. Curtis large F3 flipper. This is a knife I got before I started my channel, but not soon before. I was poking around on the EDC channels, and this is a knife designed by a YouTuber named Everyday Minimalist. A lot of you've probably heard of him. I hadn't really watched many of his videos. I was aware he existed, but I'd only watched a few videos before I found this knife design. And he designed this, and it came out through Urban EDC, I think. Nice little titanium frame lock in Magna Cut. Really cool dark washed, stone washed finish on the whole thing. Just a sleek minimalist design that I think is absolutely beautiful. Thumb studs remind me of the thumb studs that come on a Mac 2 from McNeese. Blanked out there for a second. A McNeese Mac 2, similar, except these are bigger and a lot more comfortable. One screw on the show side, just your pivot. Normal stuff going on in the back, but just one thing over here. Very, very sleek, clean looking knife, and I love this stained stone washed finish. Absolutely fucks with this one, faux show. Good action too. One of those that just kind of drifts down. Another one that I would buy again if I had to. This is a Golden Design Works Caliber Mark II, I believe. Yeah, Mark II. This thing is a fidget factor madhouse. Big opening hole here that you can't really thumb flick. But you can reverse flick like crazy, and it is got a button, so you can release it that way, or you can fling it out with the button if you had room around your microphone. Got a back flipper, and you got a front flipper. But the coolest thing about this knife is not the fidget factor or the looks. It's got a really cool aesthetic. Looks super cool, right up my alley. But the main cool thing about this, thing that sold me on it, I bought it immediately, was this is a frame lock. This is a button actuated frame lock, and this may have been done before, but this was the first time I had seen it, and that is just the coolest shit ever. Absolutely love that. So all the fun of a button lock, but the strength of a frame lock, very cool. So that adds even more to the fidget factor, because you don't have to close it with a button. You can drop it like a regular frame lock, if that's what tickles your pickle. Super cool knife. Really beautiful, solid materials, excellent build quality, absolutely no play anywhere. Perfectly centered, good high-end Chinese knife. I'm not sure who the manufacturer of this was. Riot, maybe? Bestech? One of those high-end companies. There's absolutely nothing to complain about here. This knife is fantastic, and I highly recommend the Golden Design Works Caliber. Another favorite of mine, the WE Knives Hi-Fin XL. Designed by Michael Gavick of Gavco Knives. I just think this thing looks perfect. I mean, it is stunning. The handle shape, the blade shape complement each other perfectly. The blade's nice and fat. The handle's a little sleek. Love that look. Very comfortable in the hand. Has action to rival the most expensive knives in the game. Just glides down. It feels like a Shirogorov, and this thing was like $230. Perfectly centered, no play whatsoever. Anywhere, really cool looking hardware with some turned lines around the collar. They didn't have to do that on that pivot collar, but they did. Really cool shark skin finish scalloping here. Contoured titanium scales. I mean, this thing just reeks of high end. The only thing this thing's missing is a backspacer maybe to make it look like really, really expensive, but it still does. This feels 3 times as expensive as it is. I absolutely love this knife. I have a video about it, I'll link up here. I call it the best knife in the world, asterisk, and that's true, man. This is about as good a knife as you can buy before you're paying for things other than a knife, like fancier materials or finishing or a small team or made in America, yada yada. Just knife design and materials and function and fit and finish, this is about as good as it gets. This is the very tippy top of the diminishing returns pile. And highly recommend this one. These are still available right now, so go grab you one if you don't have one. Here's the only OTF I have. I mentioned this earlier. This is a Heretic Knives Cleric 2. One of the rare models that doesn't look like a gas station knife. Just black with a rubberized grippy texture inlay and a nice stonewashed Tanto blade. Super cool looking, pretty stiff, but you know, that's how OTFs tend to be until the Zero blade plate model came out. Or really, really high-end knives like the Hawk Deadlock. Fairly stiff, but it's doable if you got some amount of hand strength. Really cool shape. It's a lot bigger than a Microtech, and that really is the only reason I picked this over the Microtech. I just think it's neat. It's like a pocket sword. Fun knife. Pretty cool. This is my only ProTech. This is a ProTech Malibu with the textured aluminum scales. The flipper button lock. Fun, fun, fun. They kind of started the craze back in the day. I remember when these came out, and then they were unobtainium for a while. Because they're just so much fun to fidget with. And yeah, this is still probably the most fun feeling button lock I've messed with, but I haven't tried a ton, to be honest. Like, for example, Wii's got that new Integral limited edition button lock that they released, the 7-something-I, XI, I don't remember what it's called. I bet it feels really good, but this ProTech feels good too. Has a little bit of button stick. Again, I'm starting to think that pretty much every button lock knife does. Any plunge lock button lock anyway. These are not known for having the strongest locks ever, it's just a plunge lock, but as long as you're just doing regular sane stuff and you're not putting a shitload of pressure on the spine of the knife downwards, you're going to be fine with a plunge lock for your EDC stuff. It'll be fine. And it's a lot of fun to play with. And they're not too expensive for an American-made knife. The only complaint I have with this knife is that the factory edge was horrendous. The worst factory edge I've seen on any knife, and it was completely inexcusable for a knife of over $200 up to $300. You know, so I had to put a new edge on it. I had to completely reprofile it, and it's still not quite perfect, but it's good enough. It looks pretty good. I need to make this a little wider back here by the heel maybe, but it was so uneven all over the place. Shameful display. Shame, shame, shame. I should have sent it back, but I sharpened it instead. So that's a user. It'll probably stick around. This is the Wii Bougie Banter, designed by Ben Peterson, I believe, formerly of Blade HQ, I believe, now of NAFs. NAFs, they sell the Lander series, which are basically Civivi and Wii Banters. Same knife, basically, but under their own brand and made by somebody else. But the Wii version here, the fancy version, the bougie version, it really is called the Bougie Banter if you're not familiar. Comes with really cool step milled titanium scales with an awesome little pattern milled in there. Kind of basket weavy looking thing. A good acid etched looking stonewashed blade, blue anodized titanium hardware everywhere, blue anodized pivot there to match. And a really cool clip that's reversible but doesn't look it because it's only one screw. So it just uses the body screw here to attach, but it's step milled around the scale. Can you see that? How it steps down? So the clip is also milled to match those steps. So all it needs to lock in is to go against those step mills over there with that one screw, and it locks in place and it won't rotate. Very cool design. Nice little attention to detail. It feels expensive, and it came perfectly centered with a good action for a crossbar lock. It's just a little small for my hands, and when I go to reverse flick, I tend to hold on to the crossbar on accident with my index finger. It still comes out, but it feels a little weird. And to be honest, crossbar locks never feel good to me. They just always feel mushy. This is way better than most bench mids I've messed with, but still not my preference. I tend to avoid crossbar locks most of the time, but this is a beautiful little knife. Perfect little EDC knife. Give you a little taste of fancy without feeling ruinous to your pocket, so not a bad pick there, especially if you got small, medium hands. Already pulled this one out once. This is the Hinderer XM18 of the sheep's foot blade. Got an aftermarket scale here, milled frag titanium scale that I got on Etsy. I think the guy, I'll put a picture of his name here, of his Etsy name. This fit perfectly, it's centered up perfectly, no issues with it whatsoever. Highly recommend, especially if you don't want to try to hunt down a Hinderer branded one, which are really few and far between and way overpriced. So I think these are like $100, very highly recommendable. And then it is a full-on titanium knife the way it should be. This is a good knife. This is a classic. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Hinderer XM18. They are nice, slick nowadays with their tri-way pivot system, where you can choose between bearings or phosphor bronze washers or nylon washers. The old ones just had like washers and that was it, no bearings, and they felt like shit. Especially if you wanted to flip it. They just didn't flip really back in the day. I had one. I had a Wharncliffe back in the day, which is a pretty light blade. I want to say it was the short one too, like a 3-inch Wharncliffe. That thing did not flip, man. It sucked. These knives are a world better these days. They're way improved. This is a super solid knife now. Even back then it was a solid knife, it just wasn't as fun of a toy. But yeah, this thing is flicks out, reverse flicks with a push button or a light switch, whatever you want. Yeah, comes right out and falls right down. It's pretty guillotine-y. The detent's a little long, so if your thumb's not in the right spot, that will bounce back up because the flipper is too long. But you know, it works. Pretty good knife. I'll do a video on that for sure. Okay, next we got the Concept Arcus. This is an Ostap Held design. He's a pretty well-known designer. This is another one I picked up because it was a really good deal and it has really good materials. Well, mostly. This is a Damascus, so it's made more to look cool than to be an awesome steel, but they use some decent metals in this, but it's nothing fancy. I think there's 8 CR in this, for one thing. So not the toughest steel ever, but it's not absolute garbage. But you don't buy this to use it, hard use. This is a little, fancy lad's knife of some kind. But we've got a titanium subframe lock, again, kind of like this big one over here. Titanium clip, micarta scales, and a really beautiful little Wharncliffe blade. It has a very good action. Nice, snappy little flipper, and these are well under $200. I really like this. I don't regret buying this one at all. I think I may have got it on a discontinuing sale though, so I'm not 100% sure if these are available. I still haven't got around to doing a video on one of these either, but if you're looking for a little fancy little going out knife, this isn't going to break the bank, and they're a lot of fun to play with, and pretty impressed with it so far. Also, they put a little fuller the length of the blade that gives you just enough to reverse flick, which is super satisfying to me. The Concept Arcus. This is the Tactile Rockwall Flipper Gen 2 that just came out. Titanium liner lock with a really cool looking clip. This one has the bronze anodization on the pivot, the hardware, and the backspacer, which looks really nice. It's a flip only design with a Magna Cut blade. Very snappy. Once I lubed it up a little bit, it's just about fall shut. Yeah. I'm not a tactile expert or anything, but both of the ones I have now have detent ramps that are too long. They're just too long, and I really hope they figure that out soon and stop it, because that's the biggest weakness of both of these knives. Not as bad a deal on this one as it is on the next one we'll talk about, which is the Tactile Archer, but it is still too long. If I drop your knife and your flipper tab hits my thumb, I should be off the ramp. It should be ready to fall. Yeah, bounced back up and locked. You have to be below halfway, down to halfway or under, for it to drop far enough to get off the ramp. So, don't love that, but it does feel really high quality. It's nice and light, slim, carries very easily, has a good snappy action, and it's beautiful. So far, I would recommend this, but I haven't had a lot of time with it yet, and I haven't done a review on it yet, so stay tuned for that. But pretty cool looking knife, and for an American-made knife with high quality materials, about $300 or so, a little under maybe. Really not a bad price at all. Alright, we're going to move on to the top shelf stuff. Here they are, my beauties. My beauties. These are my favorite knives ever. This is what you've been waiting for, probably. Here we go, this is what I was just talking about, the Tactile Archer. Again, same video, that unboxing video, I did both of these in the same video. This is a newer layout with the ridged titanium milling pattern, which is very cool, and vintage micarta inlays. And unlike a lot of knives, they bothered to do the back up nicely too. They even put an inlay on the back. Most frame locks just forego that and they ignore it. And they're like, it's the lock side, who cares? But Tactile didn't do that. They went all out on this thing. This was them trying to flex their machining skills, at least that's what they say in their marketing. They call this a hyper knife, which I'm not sure I would agree with, but it is a very, very nice knife. It's expensive. These are north of $600, but I would say they're probably worth that. There's a lot going into this thing. They really put a lot of detail in this thing. And it has a really long detent ramp, which is the Achilles heel of this knife. This knife has 3 problems. I haven't done a review yet, but I'll just give you a spoiler now. The 3 problems of this knife are this insanely long detent ramp, the lack of proper jimping on the flipper tab, which causes me to slip off of it all the time. And the third issue is this is one of the more lock bar sensitive knives that I've ever owned. As far as frame locks go, sometimes some knives are more sensitive than others to pressure on the lock bar when opening. This one is pretty sensitive, so I have to pretty consciously keep my middle finger up out of the way so I don't press on the lock bar. But if you get it out right and you drop it far enough to get clear of the ramp, which I didn't again, I mean, this thing just wants to slam. Yeah, I missed a flip. There's just no jimping there. But the action is insane. It feels kind of like a Shirogorov Quantum. It looks kind of like a Shirogorov Quantum. Next we have the Herman Vespertilio, which I've done a video on, it with the B. I'll link that here. It is a titanium M398 flip-only knife with a subliner lock, which has a nice cutaway, a nice bevel, easy to get to. Shake it once, it goes home. If I drop it onto my thumb, the flipper tab, it's ready to go. It's off the ramp. Has a super satisfying twang. I love it. This is a beautiful knife too, with another one of those knives with a ton of attention to detail. And if you're not familiar with Herman, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but tell Patrick hi. These are a semi-custom or maybe a full custom made by a dude in Poland named Bartosz, I think his name is. Bartosz Herman. Absolutely beautiful knives. Not cheap. These are around $800 and they go up from there. Well, after shipping and everything, which is expensive. I think the sticker is like $730 with no real options like this. If you get some of the fancier half-dress or full-dress knives, you can pay $4 or $5 grand for these things. But the base model ones, I think $700 to $800. Yeah, definitely worth it. These are fantastic knives. This is my favorite knife in the world, and I had trouble saying that for a long time because it's not it's not really a good knife. There's a lot of problems with this knife, but it is a work of freaking art. This is a Shirogorov knife, a limited run knife, 300 made, in collaboration with Dmitry Sinkovich, who you may know from such knives as the Spyderco Drunken. It is absolutely stunning looking, very, very unique. Not another knife I can think of that looks like this, and it sounds unlike any knife I've ever heard in my life. It's so loud, and it rings like a bell. It's got this weird hollow sound. I mean, absolutely incredible. It's the look, the feel, and the sound that does it for me with this knife. I just cannot get rid of it. It's got a lot of problems. The action is not good for a Shirogorov. It's a little tight. It's still not bad at all. It's very smooth. It's just a little tighter than most Shiros. It's a little painful to flip until it breaks in. It's got kind of some sharp jimping, but the jimping does work on that flipper tab. It's got hardware that's proprietary, and you need a special driver to take apart, which costs several $100s or more. It has no sharpening choil here, and the sharpened edge does not go all the way back to the heel, so it's not a perfect knife. There are some issues, but I just can't get rid of it. I just love it so much. It's an emotional thing, not a specless thing. You know, when you find those knives that just do it for you, they hit you right in the soul. This is one of those, man. It doesn't matter what the spec sheet says or how many cons. Oh, that's another thing. This is not a captive pivot, and there's no tool hole on this side, so this thing will just free spin. I mean, again, it just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me. I love it so much. I don't care. I love the look and the feel and the sound so much that I can look past everything wrong with it. Love it absolutely. This is the Shirogorov Fit Strip. Next, we got one that is sadly going away soon. I ended up spending too much money because I forgot about that new Shirogorov Q95 coming out that I really wanted to order. So this sadly is going away because it's similar, I'm thinking, to the Q95, but way fancier and more dressy. It's gonna be a shame to see it go. This is the Quantium limited run. Really cool planetary inlays. I've got a video, I believe, unboxing this. But this is a work of art, and it has absolutely perfect action, as you would expect. Fantastic action. One of the nicest knives I've ever handled in my life. I have pretty much no complaints other than Shirogorov using non-captive pivots with no tool holes and putting their detent ramps so long that I can get them all the way to here before they come off of it. I mean, that's just too much. But it's fine. This thing's so slick that if you just let it point down and drop it, it doesn't matter. It just falls free of it anyway. So, not the end of the world. Absolutely beautiful knife. Perfect action. Wonderful knife. You're not going to probably be able to find one, but if you do, pick one up. As long as it's, $1,500 or less. Very, very expensive knife, unfortunately. Here we go. Another favorite. This is another Shirogorov. Are you noticing that I like Shirogorov a lot? Because I do. This is the Astrum with some bronze anode features. The pivot and the backspacer are bronze. The clip is bronzed. Some beautiful lines on this thing. Micro milling here and here. Just everywhere you look, there's detail. There's swoops, there's curves, there's milling, there's inlets, there's complex angles, there's thickness changes, there's divots. I mean, there's so much attention to detail on this knife. It's insane. And it has the single best action of any knife I have ever handled in my life, and I'm not kidding. It's flip only, but there's a little blade hanging out, and the detent's so soft that I can just I can reverse flick it just with the traction from my finger, my middle finger. Not designed to do that, but man, this thing fires like crazy and slams home, even with that long detent ramp. And more importantly, it is one of the most beautiful knives I think has ever been made. Folding knives, anyway. And it has an insane blade to handle ratio. I really don't have a lot bad to say about this thing other than it's expensive and the detent ramp's too long. Maybe it'll blow you away when you see it for the first time, but as soon as you touch it, you're like, oh my god. Yeah. This is a user too. I've used this and sharpened this a couple times. It's got some scratches from cutting super thick cardboard. I just can't help it. I love it so much. Alright, next up, this is a full custom Gavko. We just talked about a Gavko, the WE-XL. Well, this is a custom model, not a whole world away from that, although I think he does make a hyphen also. This is the Mako. Specifically, this is the Mako Macro, which is much bigger than the normal Mako. The normal Mako is closer to this size. This thing is, she a hoss. She thick. This is over 4 inches of blade. Yeah, this thing is big. Very big, but very cool. This is another one of those knives that was a grail for me for over a decade that I just really, really, really wanted. And back then couldn't afford, but I'm older now, and so it's not as big a deal, but they're still expensive. Still very expensive. I bought this one used, though, so it wasn't terrible. Pretty good action, but it's got a really heavy blade, so that's kind of not a huge bragging point, This is another one with a non-captive pivot with no tool hole. I briefly tried to take this apart the other day, and it was not coming because it's Loctited. So that's annoying, and it also doesn't have a lock bar insert. I have a lot of complaints like that are repeated through a lot of knives I have. I did a whole video about the knife design sins. I'll link it here. But a lot of the knives I love have a lot of those sins. It doesn't mean it's a bad knife. They're just things I wish would change. And this does a lot of them, and I don't care. I just love the way it looks so much, and there's something really satisfying about a 4.5-inch blade rocketing out and locking into place. Super cool. Gavko's got to be one of my favorite designers. I just really dig his aesthetic. Love that a lot. Alright, this is the McNeese Mac 2 with a frag. I think he calls this his atomic finish. Kind of an etched, darkened stonewash with an acid etched stonewash blade. This is the drop point. He also has a spear point that's not much different. Just has a little less belly at the tip, maybe. But there's still a ton of belly here. I actually don't love that, but it is what it is. The thumb studs look really cool, but they're a little narrow and they're a little uncomfortable. This is a very, very lock bar sensitive knife. You can't put much pressure on that or you're not going to deploy the thing. So the way it just sits in my hand now. I don't really even press it. It just sits there and it comes out. It doesn't take much. You can reverse flick it, you can thumb flick it. Just don't press on the lock bar and you won't have a problem. The detent from the factory was a little heavy, but I mean, there's no lock bar insert or anything on these. They're ancient technology, so you can just tweak the lock bar out a little bit, relieve a little bit of that. It makes a world of difference. This is also on skiffs, so it's really slick, but it was pretty slick to begin with. Very, very good action on these knives. Very cool, unique look, and these have one of the best blade to handle ratios you're going to find in a folding knife. They pack a ton of blade into this little knife. Very impressive. Really cool looking knife. Love it. Next, you can't have a list like this without having your Chris Reeve. This is my large Nkosi that I will keep forever, that I use all the time and beat up and sharpen and don't care. Like, I'll use this for anything a knife needs to do and not worry about it. Absolutely love it. It's got a bunch of scratches and snail trails and stuff. I recently stuck this aftermarket clip on there. That's pretty neat looking. But yep, it's an old design. But it works and it's fun. And these are honestly anymore a good bargain for an American-made knife with these high-end materials. $500 is getting to be cheap, sadly. So yeah, I recommend these, as long as you're not like obsessed with Fidget Factor, because these don't have good action. People are going to say they have amazing glassy action. It's hydraulic. You're just supposed to wheel it out, but I mean, we're just romanticizing bad action, really. It's just not good. Got big old washers on it, and it's slow. But it's fine. It works. You can still flick it. You can even reverse flick it. So, it's not the end of the world. But it's not a super fidgety knife. One of my original 3 obsessions. Not this, really. It was a Sebenza. But the Sebenza 21, a Gavco full custom Mako, and a Curtis Customized F3. You know, these are the ones I used to have as my desktop wallpaper, you know, back in like 2014. So these will probably always be with me, just because they're anchor points in my collection. The only one left on that list of those original grails for me is a Recenti Druid Flipper. And those are hard to find and very expensive, $1,500, so used if you can find one. So I don't know when I'll get one of those, but that's on the list. One of these days, maybe. This is one I haven't had a ton of time with yet. This is a Brown Knives Cortex XL with a really crazy anode job. That's the high points are gold, and then the low points are all this teal blue color. Super crazy knife from what I've seen so far. You can tell a nerd made this knife. I think he's a mechanical engineer, if I'm not mistaken. Perfectly centered, perfect action, perfect lockup, super slick. It's got this weird looking front flipper thing, but I mean, use it just like a normal back flipper, works fine. Inset liner lock with this weird little thumb release area here. The release is usually here on a knife, but he moves it up here, it's this little tab. But that puts your thumb in place to catch the blade pretty easily, like right there. So that works out pretty well. And it falls right home. Oops, that was my fault. It also has a fuller, so you can reverse flick it, no problem. Blade to handle ratio is a little off, but I think maybe that's a little bit of an optical illusion because of the shape of the blade. Very neat looking knife still. And one of the cool things about it, I was saying this was designed by a nerd. This thing has, if you take it apart, it's got adjustable detent and lock engagement. You can adjust both of those to make the lock bar engage more, to stiffen or relax the detent. This one does need some adjustment because it came with a lot of detent lash. I'm going to shake it by the microphone. You can hear that detent lash. It wiggles quite a bit, so that needs tightened up a little bit, but again, it's adjustable, so not the end of the world. This may be the best made American knife I've ever handled. I think it's nicer than the Koenig Arius, nicer than the Chris Reeves and the Hinderers, American Blade Works, all those knives. The only one that's kind of up to maybe a Holt and maybe a Machine Wise. I'm having trouble deciding. I need to get a Holt, Renegade, or Morpheus on this channel soon. Anyway, that's the Brown Knives Cortex XL. I'll come back to this in a minute. This is the Hoghouse Knives Model T Gen 2. This is another one of those I'd put up there with the Fit Strip or the Astrum for most beautiful knives ever made. Man, just look at it. Would you just look at it?
Ow. Would you look at that?
I love the milled blade. It's got this opening hole with, again, some milling patterns visible in there. That looks a little sloppy to me, honestly. Other people seem to like that, but that just kind of looks unfinished to me. I could do without that. I like it on the blade, though. Got this cool swoopy bolster milling pattern, which costs extra, and then some fine milling here on the handle. These weird little flathead screws, which are pretty unusual, but remind me, Middle Complex said this, but I agree with them. They remind me of like watch hardware. Very beautiful. Everything's curved just right. Every single surface has been paid attention to. The only problems I have with this knife are, I wish there was some jimping on the flipper. and there, you don't get much of a cutout here for your lock bar access. I wish it was cut away here so I could get to it a little easier. But it's got a really good action. I'm not making it look like it does, but I promise it's pretty good. Yeah. And more importantly, the reason it's still around isn't because I have some ergonomic issues with it. It's also smaller than I thought it was going to be, but the reason it's still around is because of how beautiful it is. And it may or may not be here for the long run. I haven't used it or carried it yet because I'm unsure. I'm still deciding. I'll do a review on it. Maybe I'll won't be a super heavy in-depth review if I don't carry or use it, will it? But I'll do a video on it at any rate. Maybe I'll decide by then. I don't know. Doesn't have to be immediate. It's a pretty recent acquisition, so still thinking about that. But absolutely stunning knife. Hoghouse Model T Gen 2. And last but certainly not least is the Machinewise. Same maker as that Balisong I showed earlier, the Opus V2. This is the Machinewise Mojave. This is their second folding design. Machinewise started as a Balisong company, but I didn't know that. I found them because of their folding designs. You may have seen the Sonora, also the button lock knife. This is their second model. The Mojave is a frame lock flipper. This particular one has this stepped milling, or not stepped milling, this I don't know, micro milling pattern, this fine line milling pattern. And an interesting anode that's pretty light and subtle, but goes from a gold down to like a bronzy brown color, purpley color at the tail, which is pretty neat. Pretty cool looking backspacer that's got some micro milling and is beveled right here to come to a point, which looks neat, but is kind of uncomfortable in the hand, if I'm honest. Jimping there for no real reason. Cool swoopy looking clip. This knife has 2 screws here and then a pivot, and that's it. Everything else is, you got a lock bar insert, which is accessible from inside, clips accessible from inside, and all this holds everything together. Actually, this holds the clip on too. I've just remembered that. That's the clip screw also. Body screw and clip screw and backspacer screw, all one. Captive pivot. They include a T15 bit, and that fits everything. The whole knife comes apart with a T15. Super, super snappy action. Pretty fall shut. Oops, sorry. But it glides, and I really like that. I like knives that glide down, not slam down. I don't want to feel like I have to race to get out of the way. And it's got a big fuller, so I can reverse flick it, and my fidget factor fiend inside me is happy. I have maybe 2 complaints with this knife. One is, it's another one that's pretty lock bar sensitive, so you gotta be careful. Basically no jimping on the flipper. There's 3 lines that are really smooth, and there's nothing near the top, so I slip off of this all the time. Yeah. Watch the lock bar and you'll be fine. This thing has fantastic action, and I took it apart a couple of times, and it looks very impressive on the inside too. It's one of those knives that you're almost more impressed when you take it apart than you are when you just handle it and look at it on the outside. Very, very finely made knife. That whole company is full of young guys. I'm very impressed with the stuff they're pumping out for their age. It's insane. Some of the best in the business, and some of the best in the country for sure. Machinewise Mojave. Fantastic knife. Guys, that's the last one, and this video is getting really long. Maybe I can cut it down a bit in editing, but I appreciate you. If you made it this far, put a smiley face in the comments just to let me know you saw the end. Hope you saw something you like. There'll be videos on everything probably coming out over the next few weeks and months. I'll get there eventually. But yeah, there's the overview. I promised somebody I would make it, and I hope you sees this video, because this is for you, buddy. You know who you are. That's going to do it for today, guys. Please like and subscribe. This took a long time to make. I've got some affiliate links down there. I've got a Patreon link down there if that interests you. If not, thank you for your time, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye!